Opportunity to talk about two built-in constructor functions in JavaScript. Two built-in constructor functions. There is the date function and the math function. They're both fairly self-explanatory, but let's take a look and see how both of them work and how we can use both of them. I'm going to start with date, then we'll move on to math. Now, to use the date constructor function, well, first, how do you use any constructor function? How do you invoke any constructor function in order to create a new object? You write the name of the function with its parentheses to invoke it, preceded by the new keyword. The new keyword. This will create a brand new object representing the date and time at the time where this function is invoked, when this function is invoked. So if I create a variable called now, for example, set it equal to new date, and then I call that variable in my console, it returns this timestamp. Now, it's not letting us see the actual object that is created by this constructor function, but this is the output that we're given. It's got every piece of a timestamp we might want, down to the second, down to the time zone. But we can break apart this date object fairly easily. For example, I could execute on this date object a number of built-in methods like get hours, and that will return 15. Now right now where I am, it's 3:57, so this is 1500 hours. 15 hours. Military time or European time, that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. In 3 minutes, when it turns to 4 o'clock, this should now return 16. Okay, if I run now.getMinutes, 56 minutes, evidently, according to the computer. Now.getSeconds, obviously, 16 seconds into the minute. Actually, I misspoke a minute before. When I said that in 3 minutes from now, this will return something else, that's not true. That's not true, and that's because the now variable is locked in at this 15 hours, 56 minutes, 16 seconds. This is never going to change. The only way in which this will return 16, indicating 4 o'clock in the afternoon, is if I create a new date object inside the now variable in 3 minutes time. Anyway, these are methods which are both very, very obvious, very straightforward, very easy to use, and very well documented at W3 Schools. Here we go. JavaScript date methods, W3 Schools. Get full year, get month, get date, get hours, get minutes, get seconds, get milliseconds, get time, get day. Okay, there are only a couple things to watch out for here, and those things are if I execute now.getDay, for example, I get 0. Take a minute and try and figure out why I get 0 for getDay. Or for another example, now.getMonth returns 5. Okay, once again, it is a Sunday in June. So why does getDay return 0 and getMonth return 5? What it's returning is the index of Sunday and the index of June. Does that make sense? Sunday is going to be the very first day in the array that is the days of the week. So Sunday is at the 0 index, Monday is at the first index, Tuesday is at the second index, etc., etc., etc. All the way to Saturday, which is 6. Saturday at the 6th index. The same goes for months. January is at the 0 index, February at the 1 index, March is at the 2nd index, etc. Where we're at June, the 6th month of the year, but that 6th month is at the 5th index of the array of months. The array of months has a length of 12, but the index of the final month, December, is 11. Okay, so that's how these work. And the reason why it's important to understand that, it's important to bear that in mind, is if you are in fact using a timestamp, a custom timestamp, one that doesn't display all of this information at the same time, if you're using a custom timestamp, you need to know how to interpret these indices that are returned to you. For example, I can't just write onto my page now.getMonth. Right? I get 5. That's unhelpful. I need to understand that 5 is the index of the month, indicating June. I need to know how to get from now.getMonth, which returns 5, to the string that I'm looking for, June, or maybe JUN, or whatever abbreviation I'm after. Same goes for getDay. Okay. The other quirk about the date element, the date object, that I want you to bear in mind deals with getting the year. If I try now.getYear, it returns 118. This is an interesting one. The reason why it returns 118 is, well, it's been 118 years since the year 1900, which, as far as computers are concerned, is year 0. I just kind of find that a little interesting. But you need to understand that 118 is not a meaningful year for human beings. So once again, if you're using timestamps, if you're relying on now.getYear, you need to figure out how to get from 118 to 2018. Fortunately, there's a very easy method, now.getFullYear, which will return the year in terms of human understanding. There are also built-in ways to get the correct month and the correct day as strings, but I'm not going to tell you. You can certainly find them here on W3 Schools. It's not difficult at all to do a quick search and figure out how to do that. So that's the date object. That's the date object. So if we have a date object created and stored in the now variable in our JavaScript, let's try to console log something in the hour, minute, second format. What is that going to look like? Well, it's going to be now.getHours plus a colon plus now.getMinutes plus a colon plus now.getSeconds. There we go. Is there a problem with this, though? There is. We're only 4 minutes into the hour, and as a result, now.getMinutes has returned 4. So we have 16 colon 4 colon 15. If we were relying on this output as an actual clock, what should that 4 in the middle look like? It should be 04, right? 160415. So if you are formatting a timestamp properly, this is also something you're going to need to keep in mind. Now, an easy fix for this, which can be not so easy to find, unfortunately, is to add to the output get minutes, which right now is a 4, a method called dot to fixed and then 2. So the unfortunate thing here is there is no quick fix for this. There is no quick fix for this. So let's go ahead and break apart all of these outputs here. Without researching anything new, given what you all already know, how would you determine whether or not these outputs are a single digit? So unfortunately, there is no easy way to turn those single digits into double digits. But think, what does it mean for a number to be single digit? First, before we go any further, I'm going to replace all of these with my HHMM and SS variables. Okay, so what does it mean for a number to be single digit? If SS is less than 10, that means it's a single digit. If it's greater than 10, it's not. It's double. Simple as that. And if SS is less than 10, what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to set SS equal to string 0 plus itself. We're going to concatenate a string with a number, which will stringify the entire statement. I'm going to save that and wait for it to loop around. There we go. We have 0.1 seconds, 0.4 seconds, 0.6 seconds. And we can obviously do the same for HH and MM. But now we're in week 12, which means this isn't really going to cut it. We're at a point in time where you need to be thinking more actively about how to refactor your code, how to condense it, make it more efficient, make it cleaner. In this case, we don't have 3 of the same identical blocks of code per se, but we do have the same pattern of code being repeated 3 times. And in the past, we've instructed you to think of a for loop in situations like this. And that's valid, but in order to use a for loop to replace these 3 blocks of code, we would need to add HHMM and SS into an array, which means creating a whole nother variable, and that's not necessarily the way that I want to do it right now. Instead, what I would suggest is I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to move it down below. What I would suggest is try to think about this functionally. Try to think about this functionally. Let's write a function for formatting time. Okay, and this format time function is going to take either now.getHours now.getMinutes or now.getSeconds as an argument. Some denomination of time. So let's give it an argument of time denomination. Okay? Now inside this function, I can exercise the exact same logic as I did in these if statements down below. If our time denomination is less than 10, then what? How about we return 0 plus our time denomination? Only thing to keep in mind here is we are going to want an else statement. Else, simply return time denomination as is. Okay? And now all I need to do is, rather than store now.getHours inside my HH variable, I'm going to store format time invoked with now.getHours as an argument inside my HH variable. See what we're doing here? We're using the same function, same pattern of code 3 times to format 3 different outputs. I'll give that a couple seconds to loop around, make sure it's still working. But this is a much more concise way of structuring your code, and this is much more pure code, much cleaner code, much more efficient evidence of functional thinking, which is really going to help you and your applications out when they get bigger and more ambitious, and when you start coding in the wild. There we go, still working. 0.2 seconds, 0.5 seconds, 0.7. Okay? Anyway, that is the date function. That is the date function. The project for this week is going to involve creating a clock or a timer, which will, of course, involve using the date object. But think about other ways in which you can use the date object as well. You could jump back to your comment applications and timestamp every comment that is appended to your application. That's just one for starters. Give it a shot. As you learn to manipulate the date objects further, you're also going to realize that you can insert dates inside these parentheses. And rather than create a current date object, we can create a date object for, say, Father's Day, a date object for Thanksgiving, a date object for Bastille Day, whatever it is. And once again, W3 Schools is going to be your best friend for that. In fact, let's see what they have to say about it. Here we go. There are 4 ways to create a new date object. New date, which will instantaneously create a date object referring to the present. This new date with year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds. Let's find an example of that. Here we go. Let's copy this over into our code and see what we can do with it. D is a new date, which is December 24th, 2018 at December 24th, 10:33 at night, 30 seconds. Actually, that's 10:33 in the morning, 30 seconds, 0 milliseconds. Okay, let's call that in my console and see it. Here we go. Monday, December 24th, 2018. I've created a date object for next Christmas Eve. Now, how about a countdown to that Christmas Eve? What if I did something like D, the future date, minus now, what is that going to give me? It gives me a number. A number that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. A number that may be useless, but it's not. I'm telling you right now, this number can be parsed. It can be interpreted. It can be understood as a matter of hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. This is the number which you can use to create a countdown from the current point in time to Christmas Eve of 2018. I am not going to tell you how to parse this number. Once again, W3 Schools is a great place to start. It is not too difficult to figure it out. But if you find yourself just racing through the clock application, I strongly encourage you to create a timer app or countdown app. Maybe allow users to select a date of their own, and your application will create a countdown to that date. Or if you're a big baseball fan, how about a countdown to opening game? I don't know. I don't know anything about baseball. You get the idea. There are lots of options here, lots of ways you can manipulate the date object, and it can be extremely useful. And I'm sure, as you all know, dates, timestamps, minutes, seconds, they're all very, very common in social media, in web-based UIs. You make a post on Facebook, it'll tell you it was posted 4 minutes ago. That's the date object. All right, moving on, we'll take a look at math.